Alright, so I'm going to show how to open up and disassemble this MacBook Pro. It's a 15-inch model A1707, late 2016. This is likely going to be a two-parter, so I'm going to probably show the screen first, and then we'll do the other part because I have some errands to run. But anyways, first what you want to do is, of course, remove the screws from the bottom. So this is a pentalobe. I believe it's like a 1.2. So once you remove all those screws, then you'll want to, just like all the other MacBooks, you'll have to lift this cover up from the bottom here, not from the hinge side. If you have this gap on these models, sometimes it's a little easier because you can kind of reach under with your fingernails and then lift it up and then get underneath here. But sometimes it's really hard to do that, so you can use a suction cup, and then you can use the suction cup just to lift it up so you can get a pry tool underneath the gap here. Okay? Once you get underneath that gap, what you want to do is lift it up, slide your fingernails or your pry tool all the way down the side, and then pull it up. Okay, so go down the side and then just pull this up. And I like to pull up with these fingers and then push down with my thumb on the palm rest casing. Okay, then you want to go to the other side, same thing. Just go around. All right, go down to the side, and then with your thumb, again, push on that while you're pulling up on this. So try and get underneath. All right, and then do that. There we go. All right, and then there are some clips in the middle, but usually they'll also get pulled out when you pull the side clips out. Okay, so once you lift up all these casing, don't pull it too far because there's actually clips that hook underneath here. So to remove those, what you do is you grab the top and then you push the palm rest and the screen forward like this. Okay, sometimes it's really stuck. See, oh, so this one actually came out not too bad and it pulled the whole thing out. But sometimes it gets really stuck and you have to kind of work both sides and keep like wiggling it like that. Okay, so there we go. All right, so now we'll go on to replacing the screen. So first what you want to do is disconnect the battery. So to do that, or if you didn't already, make sure you shut it down. I already shut it down. But yeah, after you do that, you want to remove this plastic piece. Okay, just lift it up. There's a bunch of adhesives on the bottom. So try and get them to remain intact so that you can stick them back down when you're done. Okay, it'll look like this. I don't know why there's that. That's garbage. All right. So set that aside. Once you get that out, you'll need to remove this little connector here. So first you want to like lift up this plastic tab here. This it's like an adhesive tab. So peel that back. All right. Don't peel it completely off, just enough to reveal this little connector here. Flip up the black plastic tab there, and then once you do that, you should be able to wiggle this connector out. If it's stuck, sometimes you can't pull it with this plastic tab, so you have to kind of pull from the tail. But if you do that, just be careful because you don't want to damage this connector. Okay, once you do that, you can lift this up. It looks like there's an adhesive holding it down to the screw here for the battery. So just lift that up and then move that out of the way. And then to remove this screw, it's a T5. So go to the T5 screwdriver or screw and then remove that. All right. Once you remove that screw, then you want to lift up the tab that it was holding down just enough so that when you let go, it stays bent up because you don't want it to be making contact anymore. Okay. After you've done that, you want to open the MacBook. Hold the power button for about 15 seconds just to drain any power so you don't damage anything. All right. So just hold that down. Okay, once you've done that, then you want to remove these little hinge covers. So you will have to use a T4 for that. All right, just remove those screws. Alright, try to keep all the screws in order because they're all like different sizes, so you don't want to get them all mixed up. Oops. Trying to organize my screws so I don't get them all mixed up. All right, after you remove those screws, you can actually lift these little hinge covers off and take them out. All right, set those aside. All right, then you want to remove, there's a whole bunch of screws here. So you're gonna also need a, I believe it's a T8, yeah. So you'll need a T8 for the hinges here. And then you'll need T4 and a T5, and then also pentalobe, I think it's 0.8. Let me see, what was that model? That one is it's the one that you use for like iPhones. I believe it's, yeah, it's a 0.8. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, so you'll want to remove all of these. So normally I'll do like these first. The screen, you don't have to remove these metal plates unless the replacement screen doesn't have that. So first I'll use the T4 and remove the two here on the center plate. Okay. Once you remove those, lift off this metal plate that's covering the connector. Okay. And then you can remove the two on the piece below it. This holds the LCD cable in place. All right, so remove those two screws as well. All right, set that piece aside. All right, then to pop out the LCD connector, just get a pry tool or your fingernail underneath and then lift that out. Okay. Then you want to remove the 4 screws holding these two spring-loaded parts in place. When you put it back, these are a little bit tricky. Make sure you'll have to use like a little needle or something sometimes to get it, to get these to rotate properly because they're spring-loaded. You'll see when I take it out. Okay, so remove those 2 screws and then remove these 2 screws. Okay, just like that. All right. Then you'll want to switch and use a T5 screwdriver. So we'll switch to the T5, and then there's 4 screws holding this circuit board in place, so you'll want to remove those 4 screws. Right, just remove all 4 screws. Again, for these 2 metal plates, you can leave those in place unless your replacement screen doesn't have it, then you'll have to transfer those over. Okay. And then after those 4, you'll also want to remove the one down here that's holding in the wireless antennas. Okay. Remove that screw and then pop the antennas out, so get as close as you can to the tail and then just lift it up. Don't try and pry from the front here of the connectors or you can damage them, okay? So always pry from the back and then you can pop it up just like that. All right, once you get those antennas out, then you want to remove the antenna screws. So they're held in with the pentalobe 0.8 size bits, which is basically an iPhone size. Okay, so remove all of those. Make sure you get a good screwdriver because if you don't want to strip one of these screws and then you'll be stuck with this in your computer forever. Then you'll have a really difficult time trying to change the screen. If you do end up stripping these somehow, the one way you can remove them is you basically have to drill through the screw and then you can hopefully get it out that way. Okay. All right. So just remove all of those. So it looks like there's 8 of these on both sides. Okay. Just remove all 8 screws on both sides. And when you disconnect the screen, again, make sure you held down the power button after disconnecting the battery. That's very important. If you don't do that, you can damage your computer. Okay. Alright, so we'll remove all the screws from this side as well. So this part, if you're going on to the next step to remove the motherboard, you don't actually have to remove the screen assembly. So all these steps I'm doing to remove the screen, you don't actually need to do that to remove the motherboard, except for removing this connector here. Okay, so I'll probably mention that in the next video, but just in case you were wondering. Okay. Alright, we got all those screws out. Alright, once you got all those screws out, you can lift up the antenna like this. It is held down with like some kind of like a clip kind of mechanism. So it's only held down towards the middle though. So once you get underneath here, work your way towards the center, and then I like to lift it up like this with my fingernail. Sometimes it's a lot more difficult to release, but for some reason on this one it came out pretty easily. So once you do that, you can wiggle it and remove the antennas just like this. These antennas are pretty difficult to put back. When you put them back, I have to use like a needle and lift up these pieces. Sometimes you have to slightly bend the wires upwards, so when you put them, they don't get caught on the motherboard or stuff underneath. But you have to slide these and then get them back up and over the board. Okay? For that, yeah, I find it's easiest to use a little needle, and then when it gets to this little gap here, I just lift them up and then pull them through. Okay? So that's how you get the antennas out. This is the mechanism, the clip I was talking about. So they have these little bumps here that hold it. And it holds it down to a metal piece down there. Okay, so almost done with taking out the screen. We just have to undo the hinge screws. So usually for the hinge screws, what I like to do is I'll start them a little bit first while the computer's closed. So I'll just twist it a tiny bit. All right. Just like that. Okay, let me see if I can show this. So to remove the hinges, what I do, I'll open the MacBook about 90 degrees, if not more. Usually to remove the whole hinge assembly, you have to actually open it more than 90 degrees. And then what I do is I hang the screen off the edge of my desk. I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, basically the screen is hanging off the edge of my desk. Okay. And then that way I can remove the screws without the screen just falling out on the floor or something. Okay, so we'll remove those screws. And usually when I replace the screen screws, I will use, what is it called? Thread locker. I'll use thread locker red. Normally these computers, they'll have like the blue thread locker on it to hold them in place. But I feel like sometimes that comes loose, so I'll put thread locker, red thread locker on it. Okay. Alright, once you remove those 6 screws, this is the thread locker stuff if you're wondering. They do have lots of different brands, so you don't have to get specifically this one. Alright, so once you remove all those screws, you should be able to lift the hinge out. Again, you do have to have the hinges opened all the way. And then once you have that, you can let the screen kind of drop a little so the hinges point upwards, and then from there you can lift the screen out. Okay, so here you can see the screen is completely removed. All right, we'll set that aside. Readjust the camera. So here you can see these are the little spring-loaded things I was referring to. So these, when you put them back, they have to be rotated up this way to get on top of this area here. So that's a little bit tricky part with this. And also, when you put the screen, you have to make sure to lift all these connectors up so that they slide over this piece back here. And then, yeah, and then you have to get the antennas back on top. Okay, but that's pretty much all there is to removing the screen. To replace it, you basically do everything in reverse. Slide this piece in. You have to open the hinges all the way. If the hinges are difficult to open, I usually will use like screwdriver, and then use that as like a lever to kind of like go through the screw hole, and then I can move the hinge that way. Okay, so usually they'll ship it with the hinge down, so I have to use a screwdriver to pull it back up. If you do that, make sure to be careful that you don't poke the screen with the screwdriver. But that's pretty much all there is. Hopefully this video helped you. If it did, please like and subscribe because that'll help me. And if you're wanting to see how to take apart the rest of it, like all the motherboard and everything, that'll be in another video. And then the battery, I have a video for that in another one as well. So if you wanted to see that, just let me know. But it's like most of the other new MacBooks, they basically have an adhesive under here that you have to scrape out. Okay, so that's all there is. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.